Today.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I think we're going to get started. We have both of the candidates here. We have a critical mass of people, so thank you all for joining us tonight. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Julie Ty. I am president of the New York Legal Conservation Voters Education Fund. We are a statewide organization with the mission to educate, engage, and empower New Yorkers to be effective advocates for the environment. We equip voters with information about climate and sustainability issues, and we encourage them to hold candidates accountable to their promises. We ensure that the environment and climate change are discussed in the campaign trail at forums like these, so that we make sure that candidates are aware of the issues and that voters know where they stand. I want to thank our partners in tonight's event who helped us organize, including Clean and Healthy New York and the Sierra Club Atlanta chapter. I also want to thank my Capital Region chapter and the board, including our chair, Peter Tremarchi, who have joined us tonight. We're delighted about all the work that they do to help us focus on climate issues, environmental issues here in the Capital Region. We are based in New York City, but I hailed from Albany for many, many, many years. I would like to remind people that now is the election season, right? We're past Labor Day. Summer has come and gone. We know that how important it is to make sure that we're focusing on the environment as part of the election. And we want to make sure that people vote. We want to make sure that they vote early. Right? There's no excuse anymore. You have 10 days to vote. Early voting starts on October 28th. It runs through November 5th. That's a Sunday. Monday, November 6th, there's no voting. And then you can vote again, obviously, in person on Election Day. But I tell you what, I have not voted once on Election Day since early voting started because it's so easy. You can go whenever you want. There's no lines. It's terrific. If you're not going to be in town in those 10 days, make sure you get your absentee ballot request in by October 23rd, so you make sure you have that chance to get your vote in. Now, we're here tonight to make sure that the environment is top of mind for the next mayor of Troy. And so I want to take a moment to thank our candidates, Nina Nichols and Carmella Mantello, for participating today. I'd also like to thank our moderator, Kate Lisa, who many of you may know from her terrific reporting on Spectrum News. She was born in Ithaca and raised just south of Albany. Kate is a lifelong upstater who has her pulse on the issues here. Bad page break. Like no other reporter. Having a trusted voice here like hers tonight will add immeasurable value to the voters. After this summer, I think it's fair to say that the environment isn't just top of mind for voters, it's permeating into their daily existence. We've seen apocalyptic hazy orange skies, the hottest temperatures the earth has ever seen, and multiple torrential rainstorms, which have caused flash flooding here in Troy, delaying work on city infrastructure projects and wreaking havoc on travel. And of course, there's the critical public health issue in Troy of aging pipes here and around the state, but we know that there are lead issues with the pipes here that are leaching into the city's drinking water and putting the health of children in particular at risk. So we are excited to hear from the candidates tonight about these issues and on more. So with that, I would like to join me in welcoming Kate Lisa.
So both candidates tonight will appear on stage separately. They will have 2 minutes each for an opening statement to begin with, and then I will ask them a series of questions, which they will have 2 minutes to respond to. So we'll also have a little fun with a lightning round, and then to really get beyond the policy, understand them a little bit better, and learn more about the candidates themselves. So finally, each candidate will be given 2 minutes again for a closing statement, and then this will give them the opportunity to recap their main points, highlight their strengths, and emphasize their dedication and ideas for the environment and serving this community. So we kindly ask the candidates to adhere to those time limits and guidelines, and I'll be keeping my eye on that. And we also believe that through this kind of format, you, the audience, will really gain valuable insights into the candidates' positions to help you make that informed decision when it's time to vote on November 7th. So thank you to all here in the audience for joining us this evening, and let's get started. So it is my my pleasure to introduce our first candidate, Carmella Mantello. Thanks for joining us. Anytime you'd like to, start with your opening statement.
Awesome. I think I have to turn this on. I was told. There we go. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I first want to thank the League of Conservation Voters for sponsoring this really neat event. I want to thank Julie Hyde, who's president. Julie and I go way back. My time's up, right? Thank you, Julie. I want to thank Julie Hyde. We actually go back to our state days, and I want to thank the board also, and Kate Lisa, most importantly, all of you who came out this evening. So, I'm Carmella Mantello. I'm presently the City Council President. I am running for mayor of the City of Troy. I believe my record stands for itself. I have a very solid record when it comes to the environment. I used to oversee the Hudson River Valley Greenway, which was Albany to New York City, really getting communities to use the Hudson River as the front door for economic development, parks, trails, you name it. And then I was honored. The governor actually liked the work I was doing in the Hudson River Valley Greenway, and he actually sent me up the river. But in this case, it was a good thing. I oversaw the New York State Canal Corporation, 524 miles of waterway, 4 canals. And Kate Lisa, I heard that you're from Ithaca. I got to know Ithaca very well. It's part of the canal. And I oversaw that for another 6 years. So 11 years working with communities, nonprofits, folks, businesses, you name it, really capitalizing on our waterway. But more importantly, I'm here tonight to talk about why I want to be mayor. First and foremost, the major priority here in the city of Troy is the lead issue. The city council, I am council president, we found out about 7 months ago through the press that there was a $500,000 grant that the city was sitting on. We were informed at that time that, or beforehand when we accepted the grant, was being used for inventory. Clean water is huge. It's a public health issue. It's a public safety issue. There's nothing secondary to clean water. So it's a huge priority. In my first term, I do plan to not only continue our lead pipe replacement program, we have pledged to utilize federal, state, and bonded money to replace all pipes all throughout the city of Troy at the city's expense, but utilizing federal, state, city dollars. I will pledge during my first term to attempt, it's very ambitious, but to replace all pipes here in the city of Troy during that time. We have hired an outside contractor. We've already done about 70-something private properties. We'll continue that. Secondly, and very, very important, hand-in-hand quality of life. Some people would say, well, you know, isn't that really low on the list? Well, quality of life goes hand-in-hand with lead, with our drinking water, with our parks, our streets, you name it. So you'll hear more about that as the evening continues. I am a mom, 2 boys, and one of my boys does have special needs. So I'm also very passionate about accessibility and inclusiveness along our streets and in our parks.
Thanks so much for that. That brings us, I think, our first question goes right into a lot of those issues, the biggest one you brought up. And as you noted, Troy, for many years, has had a significant problem with lead-contaminated drinking water in some parts of this city. And so Troy has 12,500 service lines total, and of those, 1,600 have been verified as lead, 2,500 have been verified as non-lead, but there's still about 8,400 lines that are unknown, but should be presumed, right, to be lead until proven otherwise. So the current lead pipe replacement program, you just just talked about, set to run out early next year. And if you're elected mayor of Troy, what is your financial plan and the timetable for replacing all the known lead pipes and identifying the unknown pipes?
Yeah, first and foremost, our water is great. Troy has incredible water. I actually sponsored legislation, worked with the mayor to upgrade our transmission line. $40 million is going into that upgrade, and just a couple of weeks ago, another $15 million into our public utility treatment plant and facilities. But stating that, working with the mayor, as I mentioned earlier, we did find out about this $500,000 grant. That's totally unacceptable. It will not happen under my tenure. And the council took the bull by the horn. We appropriated $3 million, some of it the federal money, some water money from the city. We have replaced close to 70 some odd lead pipes to date. As mayor, we are going to aggressively seek federal, state dollars to continue that lead pipe replacement program. And I do pledge to try to replace all pipes. Remember, it's not the water, it's the pipes in people's homes, some along the streets during my first term. So it is a very aggressive plan, but it's very doable. And then additionally, the inventory. We are doing everything humanly possible. So if there are Troy folks here tonight who have not responded to that inventory, it's critical that you do, because that will rate us much better when we apply for federal and state grants.
So next I wanted to talk about Troy's Complete Streets Plan, which means the city streets should be made accessible to all individuals regardless of mode of transportation or physical ability. So this ensures that pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, and public transportation users, all ages, abilities, can safely navigate the city of Troy. So what is your assessment of the current plan, and what improvements would you make to it as mayor?
Sure, a couple of things. The plan's great, but it's all about implementation. So I know firsthand, as a mom with a son who has special needs and disabilities, our parks are not accessible at all. It's a major priority of mine. The council actually appropriated $3 million 3.5 years ago. We are just seeing shovels in the ground now. One of my priorities will be to first get shovels in the ground immediately. Concerning complete streets, we can do better. If you notice, many of our roads finally are being paved this year. There's a very aggressive paving program. Monies were set on over the years for our paving program for our parks. That will not happen under my tenure. And regarding our bike lanes, accessibility, it's critical. The top 3 indicators for families to invest and folks to invest into a community is education, taxes, and quality of life. So that goes hand in hand. Complete streets, accessibility for our parks, walkability. We are seeing our downtown more walkable. We're seeing restaurants capitalize on outside dining, but at the same time, you have to balance that with accessibility. Our neighborhoods are not as accessible as they should be. Our parks are not. It will be a huge priority under my tenure, and you will see dollars implemented if I am mayor much quicker than they have been the last 8 years.
Keeping with that theme of updates to some parts of the city, Troy is seeking state approval for a program to provide geothermal heating and cooling for downtown buildings. So it's a $12 million program. It's supposed to be a significant step in lowering the city's carbon footprint. So as mayor, what steps would you take to get this program up and running, and what would be your timetable for completion?
Sure, I already have. I actually sponsored the legislation as council president for the geothermal project that's happening here in downtown. We're super excited about it. We are the guinea pig though, so I really don't feel that anyone can put a timetable on it. I have spoken to our planning commissioner and the former planning commissioner, and being the guinea pig and being the first in the country to actually undertake this project is really cool. It's really amazing. But once again, it goes hand in hand with our quality of life issues, with downtown revitalization. We have $10 million through the DRI program that the governor, the state appropriated for our downtown. We're looking forward to implementing those dollars, but they all go hand in hand. They do domino each other. And the geothermal project, which is very exciting, it's one of many projects, including right here next to us, One Monument Square. So we hope to dovetail that project with One Monument Square, which really isn't moving as quickly as we would like to see. But saying that, we're hopeful. The state appropriated $19 million. The city appropriated ARPA money, $3 million toward that project. But they do domino each other, and we are seeing, as I said earlier, revitalization in the downtown. We need to spread that into our neighborhoods. It's not happening fast enough, and it's something that's a huge priority that I plan to undertake if I am mayor, and if I do succeed in November.
Going back to something that you touched on a little bit in your
Sure.
opening statement, you noted that financial support for environmental projects for a small city like this, it really needs support by both state and federal government. And so, what are the top projects in your mind when you think about what kind of state and federal funding that you'll be requesting in order to achieve those?
Sure. During my tenure as Canal Corporation Director and Hudson River Valley Greenway, I was able to see firsthand how municipalities can take advantage, whether it be small grants, small planning dollars, and large grants. We've been very fortunate here in the city. We received close to $25 million, and city monies went into that, also federal monies. And it was really due to Hurricane Irene, but we see the seawall. It was built for flood mitigation, but we see so many other initiatives, obviously dovetailing off of that, whether it be the marina, whether it be our bike trail, our land trail. We have close to an 8-mile waterfront stretch. I am going to do everything humanly possible to continue that waterfront stretch. We have up in the Berg by 125th Street, we have a boat launch there, we have Ingalls Ave in North Central. And it's all about connecting these all the way down to South Troy and really making our waterfront and our Hudson River the front door to economic development and environmental protection trails. I did that statewide. I plan to do it here in the city of Troy if I am mayor. And I have touched upon that as council president, but as mayor, I'll be overseeing the day-to-day 24/7, and I'll be able to obviously aggressively pursue federal state grants, which I did as Canal Corp Director and as Greenway Director, and I'll do that here in Troy. As I said, we've touched upon it a little as a council member on the legislative side, but as the CEO of the city, we're going to aggressively continue the trail and continue, obviously, using the Hudson River as the front door to economic development trails and waterfront trails.
Actually, that brings me to a question I wanted to ask you about the Hudson River. It's a vital waterway, obviously, passing through the city. So as mayor, how would you balance protecting the river while also balancing that its revitalization as it's going to draw more visitors and businesses here?
Absolutely. There's a vacant property right now up in Lansingburg, and it's right on the Hudson River. It's at the gateway. It's right toward the opening of the canal, and that's our former Price Chopper lot. It's sitting there. It's underutilized. It is in a floodplain. I hope to work with the private developer on that project. We recently were pretty excited to see that project move forward. We were hearing that the developer was moving forward, but unfortunately I just saw it up for sale over the past couple days. But saying that, while I was at the Greenway and the Canal Corp, I was able to firsthand work with developers, and if you sit down with developers, they're willing to incorporate, whether it be public access, whether it be protecting that view shed along the Hudson River, but it has to be a partnership, and certainly you can tell a developer what to do, but they're gonna run across and they're gonna build across the river. So saying that it's a partnership, it's building partnerships, I've been able to do that statewide. I'll do that here in the city of Troy, and we have lots of waterfront property that I plan to work with developers and work with our environmental organizations and nonprofits and volunteer organizations to really capitalize on what we have here in the city of Troy. Think about it, Albany has 787 to contend with. We don't here in the city of Troy. We have close to an 8-mile waterfront stretch that is second to none. And the people of Troy are going to see what we can really do along our waterfront stretch.
So switching gears a little bit, food waste is also a significant problem throughout the state as New York collectively strives to reduce its carbon footprint. And so do you plan on enlarging the composting program in Troy? And if so, specifically, what's your plan?
Sure, we're already doing that, and we have what's called on the city council a neighborhood improvement program. They're very small grants, but they domino into large projects, and they're very small, they're $1,000 grants, and that's what it's all about, leveraging dollars to get bigger dollars in development. So we've seen that right here on River Street. We're getting Bargain Grocery, and we're really excited about that. Private developer is actually developing that right now and hopefully opening soon. We have a great partnership with Capital Roots, and it is all about partnerships, and it's all about dominoing and leveraging small dollars into larger dollars. But our neighborhood improvement program actually went toward various projects for the composting program, and we'll continue building that program.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
So many cities are also, they're making it a priority to replace their existing municipal fleets with electric vehicles and also creating a build-out plan for those electric vehicle charging stations for all residents. So do you have a plan for Troy in this space? And if so, what are the specifics of that? Yeah.
No problem. Actually, the city of Troy undertook what's called Recode Troy, and we actually overhauled our whole zoning and planning here in the city of Troy. It was comprised through many public input sessions, various neighborhood organizations, residents all throughout the city had input on that. And the Recode Troy is all about trying to get developers to look at private development when it comes to electric vehicles and 20 vehicles. We're actually asking various developers through that zoning program, the zoning plan, to develop and stating that we do have a municipal fleet of 5 electrical vehicles also and EV charging stations. So we'll continue that and grow obviously for EV charging stations all throughout the city.
I know it's a big conversation at the state level too, so
Yes.
everyone's talking about that equally. Be interesting to see what happens there. So, and you also noted the redevelopment of Troy's waterfront. That's been a priority for many years, and the work has begun. So, how do you see this project fitting into your priorities as mayor if you were elected? And what would you specifically do to move the project along and make sure that it's environmentally sound?
Sure. First and foremost, it is all about partnerships. As I mentioned earlier, there are so many partnerships all throughout the state and here in the city of Troy. And it's all about balance. I mean, when a private developer is looking toward private development, whether it be along the waterfront, off the waterfront, it is about balancing economic development, environmental protection, and it is about a partnership. So stating that, I was very fortunate to serve under both sides of the aisle, governors at the Greenway, the Canal Corporation, and the whole idea was using the waterfront as the front door to economic development and water trails, land trails, you name it. And that's what we're doing here. We're beginning here in the city of Troy. But we can do more, and that's what I plan to do as mayor, working with developers. And you know, like I said earlier, when a developer comes into the city of Troy to develop, you have to incorporate waterfront access. You have to work with the developer to ensure that that developer is working hand in hand, that it is a partnership and it's not a one-way street. And I will tell you, in terms of development here in the city of Troy, we haven't taken advantage as much as we could in terms of getting developers to incorporate watershed, view sheds and trails and water trails. So it's something that is a priority of mine now, continue, not just, you know, which I am doing now as council president, but should I be mayor, it's something that needs to happen.
And so finally, for this round, if you were to be mayor, are there any other things I didn't ask you about that would be an environmental priority for you?
Sure, actually, you know, the Bond Act that was recently passed, it is something that municipalities will be taken advantage of, and is something I will aggressively seek to ensure that Troy receives its fair share. So the Environmental Bond Act, one was passed many years ago. We saw several projects here in the city of Troy and all across the state. So it is something that I will pursue aggressively to ensure that Troy gets its fair share of the Bond Act. And as I said earlier, we have close to an 8-mile waterfront, and we certainly are beginning to tap into the amenities along that waterfront stretch. We can do better, we can do more. I plan to bring my skills as CEO of the city. As I mentioned, as council president on the legislative side, we can do legislation, we can apply for grants, we can approve the mayor applying for grants. But as CEO, you are going to be the person who's actually going to be negotiating with developers, working with volunteer groups, neighborhood organizations. It's something I look forward to, and it's something I will capitalize and work with the residents of Troy to capitalize on our Hudson River, an American treasure, along our waterfront, whether it be economic development, environmental protection, water trails, land trails. We can have it all here in the city of Troy, connecting our neighborhoods from South Troy to Lansingburg.
Thank you. So now are you ready to have some fun? Lightning round?
Lightning round.
So tell us what your favorite way to connect to the environment is, whether that's something like hiking, gardening, riding a bike.
Yep. Hiking, walking. I do love our 9/11 Memorial over on 112th Street. It's very peaceful. It's right on the Hudson River. But I do bike, I do hike, and here in the city of Troy, folks, I believe, don't realize how much accessibility we have along the waterfront. They're beginning to see it with the seawall that was built. We can connect Lansingburg, South Troy, and connect our downtown to Lansingburg and South Troy, and connect our whole Hudson River. But saying that, it's a real passion of mine, but I do love biking, hiking. I love taking my son for a walk.
Good spot to do it in also. So, do you own or have you ever driven an electric car?
I have driven one, I do not own one.
And do you carry with you a reusable water bottle?
I do, and now I have a new one.
You need both, yeah. So how do you commute to work? Do you drive your own car, public transportation? How do you get there?
Well, the fun thing is, I will tell you, I am looking forward, if I am elected mayor, to ride my bike to work. I really don't enjoy driving. I used to have to commute, think about it, 13 or 11 years statewide, whether it be down to New York City and out to Buffalo. So I was driving constantly thousands and thousands of miles. So it was nice to actually, I retired in October, and I am now here in the city of Troy, and I love riding my bike. And I must say, probably one of my top 5, I would say, accomplishments was my kayaking Albany to New York City. It was a 10-day kayak while I was at the Hudson River Valley Greenway, and it was an incredible accomplishment, and something I'd love to do again, but saying that I do love to kayak also.
That's great. And so finally, do you recycle or compost your food waste? And if yes, how long have you been doing it?
I recycle. I have not deep dove into composting yet, but I do plan to.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? And so 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Once again, I want to thank you all for inviting us here tonight, for sponsoring this forum. I want to thank the League for sponsoring this forum. I'd be honored to have the League's endorsement. You must know, 12 years ago I did run for mayor and I did receive the endorsement from the League of Conservation Voters. I believe my record is solid, whether it be at the Hudson River Valley Greenway, the Canal Corporation, and here as council president, I've sponsored, supported several initiatives, whether it be our landfill that now is solar, whether it be electric vehicles, whether it be the lead pipe replacement program, the seawall, the list goes on and on. I'd be honored to be your mayor. I'd be honored to get the League's endorsement. I will raise that flag very high. And I, must tell you, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very passionate about our waterfront. And I've worked with communities statewide, but the city of Troy, we have it all right here. And we have not capitalized on our waterfront as much as we can. I'm very passionate about it. I look forward to be your mayor in January and work not only to redevelop our waterfront, really balance that economic development, environmental protection, but also attack the quality of life, which has a huge domino impact on our environment. So thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me here tonight. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Kate Lisa.
Thank you so much, Council President. It was really excellent to hear from you on all these things. And we have a little extra time, so maybe mingle, speak with people, and take a few minutes to do that. And any questions people have for you, and we'll continue after that. Awesome. Thank you. Our second candidate, Nina Nichols.
Well, first of all, I want to say good evening and thank you to the New York League of Conservation Voters for organizing this environmental forum as a platform for discussing plans for making this a greener, more sustainable Troy. And to the Arts Center of the Capital Region for making space for us to have this event this evening. I'm grateful to all of you who also made time to be here in this very busy season. It demonstrates your concern and your commitment to moving Troy into a safer, cleaner, greener future. I am Nina Nichols. I'm a wife, a mother of 3. I've spent my life in public service and community service and advocacy for what is good and what is right and what is just. The last 10 plus years that has been at Unity House in both development and advocacy work, helping connect individual, private foundation and corporate foundation donors to opportunities for making life better for people who are struggling. This includes a lot of developing partnerships and writing grants. A part of my work also includes advocating for the human services workforce, affordable childcare, and affordable supportive housing. I've served on many local boards, most recently as the president of Oakwood Community Center Board. I am the past president of the board for New York Interfaith Power and Light, working with houses of worship to reduce their carbon footprint and advocating on a national level to have legislation that reduces carbon emissions. When I was on the city council in 2012, I was the co-sponsor of the Climate Smart Cities Resolution. I participated in the Climate March in New York City, and I worked to reduce my own carbon footprint. I am committed to a safer, cleaner, greener Troy. And if not now, then when? This was the hottest summer on record. We have environmental tragedies unfolding all around us. And as Canada burned this year, we experienced the impact of that in our own air quality. That's the ugly, sad side. But there's also a hopeful side. If not now, when? Not only the science, but the economics is now on our side. Now is the right time, and the resources are there for us to be a leader in taking Troy into a greener future. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So the questions might sound a little familiar, but we're gonna go back. So we're gonna go back to the significant issue that Troy has had with the lead contaminated drinking water in some parts of the city, and to review some of those numbers. So the total service lines that Troy has is about 12,500, and of those 1,600 have been verified as lead, with 2,500 verified as non-lead. But there's still that 8,400 number of lines that are unknown, have to be presumed that they are lead until it's verified otherwise. That current lead pipe replacement program is set to run out the end of the year, and if you are elected mayor, what's your financial plan and timetable for replacing all of the known lead pipes and to identify the unknown ones?
Well, we need to continue the robust efforts and even strengthen them to communicate with the people of Troy how important it is to identify those lead service lines, to complete that inventory so that we know the magnitude of the problem that we're dealing with more accurately. We should be working with our schools, with our colleges and universities, with our landlords. We should be working with every partner that we can to ensure that we are getting the word out. I think that the city has been making a good effort to try and do that, but there is a lot more direct outreach that we can be doing with folks to both educate on the need for doing that and also help people understand the strategies that they can be using in the meantime while we're waiting for those lead service lines to be replaced. Especially, again, with the schools, the daycare centers, making sure that the children are protected because they're the most vulnerable to the impacts of exposure to lead in their water. I think that the city has begun to set up a plan for bonding to make sure that we can address all of the lead service lines in the city. And I support that plan. It's going to be an exceptionally large amount of money, but it's important to do that because we need a pot of money that's going to be ready and liquid so that we can use it as we need as we move through the city. I also believe that the city is proposing that happen, the current administration, along with the street milling and paving, and that makes a lot of sense and is going to be the most effective way to do that. In addition to the bonding money, there is an exceptional amount of money out there to be had at the state and federal level. The bipartisan infrastructure bill has $55 billion that is allocated for lead service line replacement, and Troy should be pursuing that and making sure that we get our fair share. To that end, in my administration, we will be seeking out, and so if you know people, begin thinking and sending them my way, the most exceptional grant writer and possibly team of grant writers that we can find. They are worth more than their weight in gold, and they can ensure that no money gets left on the table. I'm also looking, when we didn't move forward with the plan initially when we got the first allocation of money, all of the other municipalities did move forward, and some of them had some pretty interesting plans. In Albany, they allowed property owners to work with their own contractors to make the repairs to their lead service line, and Albany would match up to $2,500 so that they could go ahead and do that. Now, we're going to replace all the lead service lines, and the city, under my administration, is committed to doing that. I am also committed to finding a pot of money that if there are property owners who want to fast track that process, then the city could match to pay the contractor to go ahead and do that up to $2,500. This ultimately is advantageous to all the people in the city. It gets lead service lines replaced faster. It reduces the ultimate tax burden on all taxpayers when that can happen.
Excellent, thank you. It is a conversation we hear about at the state level a lot too. So I'm sure that will continue as well. Budget season comes around, and I want to go back to the Complete Streets plan, and what that means, right, that the city's streets are being made accessible for all individuals regardless of their physical ability or their mode of transportation, and ensuring pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists alike can use and safely and comfortably navigate the city. So what is your assessment of the current plan to do this, and what improvements, if you're elected mayor, would you make to it?
Well, I think we need to strengthen and empower that Complete Streets committee to do its work, to hear their recommendations. We have professional planners on that, and they have a high level of education in terms of what the best plans are for moving forward. So I would want to make sure that we're making their good advice available to our planning and our zoning departments much earlier in the process, so that we're incorporating their good thoughts about how to move forward into all the projects that are happening in Troy. I do think that one of the things people love about Troy is our walkability. People love to come to downtown. They recognize that in fairly a short amount of time, they can travel and see most of our businesses. They can either find restaurants, they can be on the river, they could be in a park. And in order to increase the opportunity for that, we do need to tackle repairing our sidewalks to make them more walkable, and do more to partner with people to make that feasible and possible. We need to do more to make it a rideable city. And so there are partners that we could be working with to assess how to do that best. Capital Streets, local partners like Troy Bike Rescue. We have some bike lanes, but we could do more with those. New York City now has dedicated bike lanes. If they've managed to do it, we should reach out to Mayor Adams and ask him, how's it working? What are the pros here and what are the cons? And then use some of what they've been able to learn to do that. Paint is something, but there's more infrastructure that we need, more bike racks. Oh, and we need to continue to work on cutting the curves on our sidewalks. So not only more walkable, but more accessible for everyone. And so that certainly would be all kinds of mobility issues that folks might have, but it's also parents pushing strollers. We need to continue to work on getting the curbs cut. I know that the administration has done hundreds of them over the past years. I know that they know that we can do more, and my administration will do more.
And so Troy, again, is seeking state approval for a program that would provide the geothermal heating and cooling for downtown buildings. It's a $12 million program that is aimed to be a significant step to lower the city's carbon footprint. So as mayor, what steps would you take to get that program up and running, and what would be your timetable to complete it?
I would hope that we could move Troy to more energy efficiency as quickly as possible. I have been very excited to hear about how the economics have bent to our side. And a lot of that is through the Inflation Reduction Act, through the Biden administration, that has put a tremendous amount of money into all kinds of pots that we can access, and some of it is what you're talking about. There's also an opportunity for households, I want to say, to access this money. If you're like me, then there have been years where you might have been thinking, I would love to do the right thing and have a greener household, but the cost just seems too far off. But that's no longer the case, because the Inflation Reduction Act has, in a sense, leveled the playing field. And it's made possible for all of us to go ahead and move forward with those energy efficiencies. If you are 60% or lower of the AMI, you can have 100% of those energy efficiency upgrades made to your home. If you're up to 125% of the AMI, 50% of those upgrades can come to you. And then there's a full market opportunity, which involves a lot of public utility rebates and tax incentives and tax credits. For the city side, we would work with an ESCO, an Energy Service Corporation, and their job is to come in and do an energy audit, and then make recommendations for how to move forward and design. And the great thing about an ESCO, again, recognizing that, that this is just good business, they will come in and they will make the capital improvements that you need in your city. They will make them for you, and then the city pays them back out of our tax savings. So it actually costs us nothing, because they're willing to make that advance investment. So I would move us towards that cleaner, greener future immediately.
And sticking with that investment discussion, it was noted that state and federal investments and funding here was really necessary for smaller cities and areas to have these environmental projects, be able to fund them and afford them. So what are the top projects in your mind? If you're elected mayor, what kind of requests would you be making to the state for state and federal funding, and what will you be doing to seek to achieve them?
Well, again, we've already talked about some of them. I would look towards accessing funds to be able to have the most robust lead service line replacement program that we possibly could have. I would also look towards the energy audit, because they make recommendations and that's part of their job, is to come in, to look, to assess, to help prioritize. I don't pretend to be an environmental expert. What I do pretend to be, or not pretend to be, what I actually am, is somebody who seeks out experts who really know what they're doing and then take good guidance and then figure out how to implement effective strategies based on those very thoughtful recommendations that they would make. So I would look to that. I do know that our sustainability task force that Troy has been working on ensuring that we get EV charging stations. So I'm trying to help them with a little bit of their background work to move that forward. That is a good investment for Troy. Hopefully we will get the grant funding they're seeking out in order to put those up. Stewart's is going to be putting them up in their shops because, again, this is now the business savvy model way of doing things. GM, without being told, without being authorized, told that they had to do it, is shifting over their fleet to electric vehicles because they can look around globally and they can see that that is the future, that that's what they're going to need to do to be competitive. Stewart's is making this investment in EV charging stations because they know that's what a greener future is going to look like and that's the direction we're heading. Troy needs to be a part of that. So I certainly would support the Sustainability Task Force in this effort and other efforts that they would recommend. And this can be also a money-making opportunity for Troy, making the EV charging stations also a great opportunity. We put those in, certainly should put them in our public buildings. But we should also make them available around downtown where we want our suburban friends to come and to park when they enjoy our farmers market and enjoy other ways of enjoying Troy. Because they can come in, they can plug in, it can be a service to them to go ahead and charge up their electric vehicles, and we can use a surge pricing and make a little money for our ions that they need.
And so, want to go to food waste being a significant problem also. About sustainability, is New York striving to reduce its collective carbon footprint? So do you plan on enlarging the composting program in Troy, and if so, specifically, what is your plan with that?
Yes, so I love the composting program, and I'm so very sad that the curbside pickup is about to end because that grant has run out. So first I would, with my savvy grant writer, have them work with our team to, that's already in the city administration, to find the resources to hopefully bring that curbside pickup back. Having said that, the current plan is that you would have to go and take those and drop them off, and there's pretty limited days and there's pretty limited hours. But we do want people to be removing that food waste from the waste stream. And so one of the things I will want to do is work with other partners to create more drop-off sites, times, so that people can be encouraged to do this program. Since we're on food, just briefly, I was for 14 years a vegetarian and recognize that that is a significant way also to impact with our food behaviors, our carbon footprint. And so where I would not want to take anybody's cheeseburgers away, I do want to work with our restaurants that are so fantastic and fabulous, that in April during Earth Month to do a meatless menu month. And encourage them to offer a non-meat item each week during Earth Month, and then do a robust education about what the change, even sometimes in our diet, can do to reduce our carbon footprint.
You said former vegetarian.
Yeah, I got pregnant.
That changes things.
It does quite a bit.
So, the Hudson River, obviously we have to discuss as the vital waterway that it is, drawing maybe 8 miles of waterfront we have here. Really a vital part of the city and the capital region. As mayor, how would you balance protecting the river while this revitalization is happening and is drawing increased usage and visitors and businesses?
Well, first, I'm always in awe of what it means to live in Troy. This is my chosen city. I moved here almost 18 years ago, and I love it. And the thing I love most about it are the people who are here. And we have people in Troy who are still so active in the conversations about what our city should be and what it should look like, who were a part of that effort to protect it when 787 threatened to come in and cut us off from the waterfront the way it did with Albany, and now they're trying to figure out how to undo that. So I think we have wonderful community members who help to make sure that that doesn't happen, and my administration would be very responsive to the input from our residents about the kind of access and the kind of plans they want to see that preserves that access to the waterfront. Of course, in our development, that should be a part of any conversation that we're having about what's going to happen along the waterfront as we develop new projects, as we improve the ones that currently exist along River Street, and as we look at opportunities both up towards Lansingburg and down towards South Troy. And there are some exciting opportunities that are out there. There are some that are exciting that maybe are not really what we want to see because of the risk that they cause to access, to archaeological significance, to preserving green space where very little exists. And so all of our decisions should be made mindful of access to the river and to preserving the character of our city.
So I want to return to something you talked about already a bit, some of the other questions, and that is the priority for a lot of localities, to replace their existing municipal fleets and replacing them with electric vehicles. Also plan building those electric vehicle charging stations. Discuss some of those specifics of your plan to do that, what your plan is and how you would get it done.
Well, some of it's, again, accessing the resources that are now more available than they ever were before, using grant writers to ensure that we're bringing in the money and not leaving any on the table, working with our sustainability task force and other partners who have an invested interest because of who they are and their passions for what this means, to put some targeted effort and energy into doing the research and contributing. We can also take better advantage of our university students who are often the most passionate advocates, and in a place where they could benefit from having, say, resume writing experience by helping Troy do some assessments and contribute to those grant applications. It is probably true that we would make our investment in changing over our fleet as vehicles needed to be replaced, but we would do that with a commitment towards that electric vehicle future.
And the redevelopment of the waterfront we've all been hearing about, seeing start to happen for the last several years, that priority here. How do you see that project fitting into your priorities as mayor if you're elected? And what would you do specifically to move this project along and also make sure that it's environmentally sound?
Are we talking about the One Monument Square specific project or all waterfront development?
Let's do both, sure.
So I do hope that the One Monument Square project specifically does move forward. There was a lot of community input and investment in developing that plan, and we're so very, very close after having a hole in our city for a very, very long time. In the process of coming up with that plan, access to the waterfront was a key part of the conversation, and so that happened as it should be, with a lot of community input and a plan to preserve that access. As we move up and down the river, again, access should be a key piece. Environmental impacts should be taken into consideration. I think about a project that has moved forward up in Lansingburg to some degree, and I think it's stalled at various points. The proposal where I'm going to say it wrong, Nahikantuk, and the Friends of group that has worked hard to raise questions about what is happening on that site. I should say I'm pro-development and I'm pro-density, and I feel like that's where our city is going to need to go. We have more and more people who need housing and are looking for housing. So when I'm looking in that project, it's not that I don't think the development should happen, but I think that there needs to be more intentional conversation, and I'm not sure why it hasn't happened other than perhaps an overstep on the city council's part to become the lead agency in questions around seeker and environmental review. One option could have been to talk to the developer about how to protect a portion of that land and preserve it. Another opportunity could have been to talk to the stakeholders for the price chopper that's right there, for the land that we would not want to be developed, see if we could flip those around. The infrastructure is better anyway, where the price chopper is. It would benefit Lansingburg, and we could develop that urban forest, that treed area, and include archaeological information about the history of our city. There is an amazing opportunity to create an attraction for people to come to Troy, and there are several nonprofits who are interested in making the investment to make that happen. So those would be two development projects.
Understood, thank you. And finally, anything I didn't ask you that would be an environmental priority for you if you're elected mayor?
So I'll do this one because it probably doesn't technically fit, but I love to talk about it. I received an email from a friend who wanted to remind me that this is an urban environment and we should be concerned with urban environmental issues. And that involves our buildings. And I have a particular passion around caring for our vacant buildings, which means probably reconstituting our zombie building task force to make sure that we are keeping track of what's going on there, that we're assessing the condition that they're in, that we're attending to the impacts that those vacant buildings have on our neighborhoods. Healthy homes and healthy neighborhoods are very important. We know that when our vacant buildings get left unattended, crime takes root there. Youth who are looking for adventure may find very unsafe places to hang out. In addition to our vacant buildings, also addressing our negligent landlords. That's an issue that we have throughout the city of Troy. When we have homes where there's lead paint that's crumbling, when there are inadequate ventilation, respiratory issues, they flourish. It exacerbates the problems of heat in the summer and cold in the winter. When people have bad wiring and are using ground heaters, we leave ourselves open to fire. When wiring is exposed and there's no access through windows or doors that are sometimes nailed shut, and a fire happens, that can lead to death. So we must attend to those properties. We know we had a building on 4th Street that collapsed. We know we have 100+ residents at Harbor Point who were evacuated from their homes. We need to put in place code enforcement that can be attentive to these issues. We need a competent, trained, professional director of code enforcement, additional inspectors who can run the program, and then we need to have a proactive plan for addressing our vacant buildings and our negligent landlords.
Onto the lightning round. So, your favorite way to connect to the environment is what?
Hiking. Adirondacks in particular, Grafton Lake State Park is also nice, but also we have this great thing through Prospect Park and Burton Pond, and yes, so.
I was gonna say a good spot for that.
Yeah.
So, have you ever driven or do you own an electric vehicle?
I don't think I've driven one, and I don't own one, but we do have a Subaru. And we carpool together.
Do you carry with you a reusable water bottle?
Yes.
Excellent. And so how do you commute to work?
So I largely, up until very recently, have been working from home. And as a kind of end of COVID situation. I probably live a mile or so from work, maybe 2. And I could walk, for those of you who know Troy, which I think is probably all of you, I live up near Troy High School, and I work at Unity House. So down is great, but going home is another story. And the truth is that my switch back to going into work largely intersected with this campaign. and it never stops. I'm going all the time, and so I do drive more than I wish that I had to, but I do.
And so do you recycle and compost your food waste? And if yes, how long have you been doing it?
So we started composting. We had talked about composting forever, and this is actually an advertisement again for this program. We've been wanting to do it for years and had looked at all kinds of things. Okay, so my wife is in the front row, just like we did, and I was like, well, you're right. So we would take stuff to the farmer's market, but I would say that was a, when we thought of it. And then our, at Unity House, up until COVID, we also were collecting all of our compost and that was getting picked up, but then the business went out of business, and so that was no longer an option. When they did the municipal composting program, we thought it was the best thing. I mean, if you want people to do it and that matters to you, you need to give people the materials that they need and make it as easy as possible. So yes, we do compost. We do recycle, and we love recycling, and I'm just going to use this, not even lightning round, but a pitch to say, I think that the ARPA money was a good investment to do the new trash cans that are the big trash cans. I know that there's 100 different individual problems there, but collectively for the city of Troy, this was a very good thing. It's a good thing ultimately for our workforce, and it's a good thing for areas that are really dense to have a lid and make sure it closes. But I tell you this, I probably don't fill my trash can, but right? It takes days to be able to fill it up. But my recycle bin, we're always like, don't miss the recycle this time because then we're gonna be in trouble. So I think that we should have recycle bins that are the same size as our garbage cans to encourage people to recycle. The Troy recycle rate is 10%. It's the lowest in the state, right? And so we need to maybe go back to when I was young. I think it was when they were first rolling out all of those programs, and there was such a huge emphasis on it in schools and education, and the kids know about it, and the kids go back and they tell their parents. We need to provide a better receptacle for recycling so that people are incentivized to put more in it, to reduce more from the waste stream that ultimately, possibly, could reduce our tipping fees. And then we can see what happens from there.
Great perspective on that, thank you. And this concludes the questions, and thank you so much. We're gonna do the same thing we did with the other candidate, and but before we do that, Julie, come back up and give some closing remarks. I'm so sorry, forgive me, forgot. Skip to the next closing remarks before, yes, so please, 2 minutes for any closing statements you'd like to make.
Fantastic, I talked too fast. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share actions that I would take to invest in our neighborhoods, protect our families, and make this a safer, cleaner Troy for everyone. I am committed to working every day to ensure that we have clean air and safe drinking water, that we are taking advantage of the unprecedented resources that exist right now to do the right thing, to increase our energy efficiencies, reduce our carbon footprint, and move us into a greener future. I will ensure that our city workforce is staffed, trained, and equipped to undertake this work, and to engage the appropriate partners and experts to provide input and guidance. My administration will prioritize hiring a grant writer to work with departments to ensure that we are not leaving any money on the table, and expanding our code enforcement department with a head of code and additional inspectors to ensure healthy homes and healthy neighborhoods across the city. I am grateful for the League of Conservation voters hosting this forum, and I am also humbled to announce that a group of environmental leaders have created a group, Environmentalists for Nina Nichols, including Greg Campbell-Cohen, Troy resident, Judith Ank, former EPA regional administrator appointed by President Obama, Christian Gregoricus, land steward, Drea Leanza, Troy resident, Andrew Lynn, founder of Troy Bike Rescue, Jack McGuy, arborist, Elizabeth Moran, Troy resident, Paul Winkler, national transportation expert, David Anderson, UAlbany professor of public administration and information science emeritus. I am inspired by these people, by their leadership, and by their vision, and I look forward to being informed by them and working with them and with you to make this a safer, cleaner, greener Troy for everyone. Thank you.
all of you in the audience here tonight. We hope you learned a few new things about the environment, about where the mayoral candidates of the city of Troy stand on those issues. I'm going to say two things in the personal privilege. I take advantage of the charging station that you have here over by Ryan's Wake. I know that it's there. I've used it there multiple times when I've come up in the area, so I appreciate that. So I'm one of those people who has come, and I've definitely used it when I've gone to the farmer's market. I also know the struggle of living on the top of a hill and working on the bottom of a hill. Because when I worked at DEC, I lived in Center Square on Albany, and so downhill to the work to office was easy, but I understand I would sometimes catch a ride home from one of the lawyers. I want to once again thank our partners, Clean and Healthy New York and the Sierra Club, for partnering us for this event tonight. I want to give a huge round of applause to the Art Center of the Capital Region. If you haven't been to look at the art, I encourage you to come on another day. I don't know that we're allowed to wander around tonight, but I definitely, it's a fantastic space. I've been here before when I lived in Albany, and I appreciate it very much. Allowing us this opportunity for civic engagement. I want to remind you again that the most important thing that you can do for the environment is to vote. It's why we say our vote is our power. So don't forget, early voting starts on October 28th and it runs through November 5th. Election day, of course, is November 7th, Tuesday, as always. Until then, we look forward to hearing more about these critical environmental issues from the candidates in the coming weeks. If you are not already following NYLCV on social media, we are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads. Threads is the new one. And look there for updates. If you're not already on our email list, please see us on your way out or sign up at nylcvef.org. Thank you all for participating tonight. Have a great evening. We have a few moments to catch up with Nina also. Thank you.